Thank you. A very good morning to you all, members of the media fraternity. Welcome to Morgan Tsvangirai House, our headquarters of the Movement for Democratic Change, Tsvangirai. We are here at the citadel of the opposition in Zimbabwe, where Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai left us. Today is a very momentous occasion. It's a big day where we are going to allow our president, our newly elected president, to talk to you. But before he does that, you may recall that on the demise of Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai on February 14, 2018, the party was plunged into chaos. And eventually, the Supreme Court ruled that what had happened post Tsvangirai's death was improper, was irregular, was unlawful, was unconstitutional. Therefore, the Supreme Court directed the MDC T to go and hold an extraordinary Congress. You may also recall that on 19 December this year, we had fixed a date for that EOC, which did not happen due to logistical nightmares. And this EOC finally took place on the 27th December 2020. And I'm sure most of you or many of you were there at the Harare International Conference Center when the EOC took place. This EOC was run by an independent electoral management body chaired by Mr. Thomas Mashinge from the ZCTU. They were in charge of this EOC, and 4 candidates were contesting, namely Dr. Tozani Kupe, Advocate Douglas Mwonzora, Senator Morgan Komichi, and of course, Senator Engineer Mzuri. The results are all in the public domain. I don't have to regurgitate those results. Today, I would now want to introduce, before I call upon the newly elected president, I want to introduce to you members of the standing committee here present. On my right, I have Dr. Shakespeare Mkoi, who is our National Secretary for Youth. Can you rise? Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. On my far left, we've got Honorable Paulina Mpariwa, who is the Deputy Secretary General. We have got Dr. Gandhi Mzingo, who is our Secretary for Elections. By the way, Dr. Gandhi Mzingo, no, I've conferred an honorary on you. Mwonzora, has been in the trenches for quite a long time. He was with the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions. He worked with Morgan Tsvangirai. During the formation of the MDC, he was busy with the famous raw data. He traversed the length and breadth of Zimbabwe, gathering information and views on what the people were saying about the situation back then in 1998, whether ZCTU should form a political party or not. The research was done by Gandhi Mwonzora, Dennis Murira, and other people before the MDC was launched in 1998. So he's a veteran of this struggle from labor. I've also to introduce former Gift Chmanikire, who is the deputy organizing secretary. The acting again, Chmanikire is not new to the democratic struggle. He was with the Post and Telecommunications Workers Union back then in the 1990s and 1980s. He was a very militant trade unionist. The strikes that he used to order. In fact, he was leading from the front when he was with the trade unions. And he was also part of the ZCTU executive before we joined we formed the movement for democratic change. I have got Maim Pariwa, who is a very strong woman. She was with the Commercial Workers Union before we formed the MDC, and she was with the ZCTU Women's Council. In fact, she was the chair of the ZCTU Women's Council. She's a labor unionist to the core. And as you can see, the profile of people who are here are veteran trade unionists, suggesting that this party has gone back to its roots, to labor, to the trade unions. So she needs no further introductions. She's a strong woman, yeah, and she's one of our pillars in this struggle. Before I hand over to the president, I also want to introduce him. Douglas Mwonzora is possibly one of the pioneers of opposition politics in Zimbabwe. He has been fighting ZANU-PF all his life. In fact, his DNA is just anti-ZANU-PF. I remember when we were at the University of Zimbabwe, he was at the law school. I was in the School of Economics. He was already a member of the Zimbabwe Unit Movement, which was led by Edgar Tekere. And during those years, with CIOs and I was really, fearful for his life. He was very brave. He fought the one-party state regime in the 1980s and managed to stop the one-party state in Zimbabwe when he was with Zoom. Then he also went to Forum Party of Zimbabwe, and one of his famous cases was when he represented Dandavaning Stole. And one of his other famous cases is when he argued the case for Political Finances Act. He is the one who argued in the case which brought about the Political Finances Bill, which is now an act. Douglas Mwonzora, when we formed MDC, and most people don't know that, when we came from the university, I, Douglas Mwonzora, Dr. Godfrey Kanyenze, Dr. Rennie Lowenson, were some of the graduates who were prepared to work with, to join the labor movement, to work for workers. During those days, being a trade unionist was was a dirty job. It was not very popular. So to find a graduate going to look for employment with the workers, it was a taboo. But Wanawati Manikire employed us as young students. I was employed in the economics department. Douglas Mwonzora was employed as a legal advisor, doing legal research and litigation for ZCTU in 1992. So whilst we were at ZCTU, I was in charge with economic research, advice, economic analysis, and so on. Douglas Mwonzora was in charge of representing vana vachimanikira vainge vasungwa vachidemonstrata. Vana vatsvangirai vainge vaita brush with the law. It was his duty to represent the ZCTU leadership. And we said, don't represent the leadership alone. Also train our shop stewards so that they can be legal wise. So Douglas Mwonzora, together with Marechera, helped us to develop what we call paralegals. And what UIC is one of the paralegals who was trained. I think he was trained as a paralegal.
The best students.
They were the best graduate in his paralegal class. So I hear people say Douglas is not a founder of the MDCT. They don't know the man very well. We have got this history. You can go and research and find out. But most importantly, the MDC was formed by ZCTU, the constitutional movement, the churches, the students, ZINASU, ORAP, the informal sector, and other many civic organizations. And Douglas was with the NCA, the National Constitutional Assembly. Nana Matuku, Nana Brian Kagoro, Nana Grace Quinje, Brian Raftopoulos, Tendai BT. They were in the constitutional NCA movement. We were in the labor movement. So we combined together to form the MDC. That's why it's a movement. It was not just us workers. So Douglas Mwonzora is the founder of the movement for democratic change, without any apology. I thought I should make that. And I'm speaking authoritatively as one of the founders of the movement for democratic change. Anyway, without much further ado, it is now my humble pleasure to call upon the newly elected president, Dr. Douglas Mwonzora, to address you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tapiwa Mashakada, our spokesperson. Madam Pariwa, our Secretary General, my erstwhile deputy, and now the substantive Secretary General of the party, by virtue of the operation of the Constitution of the Movement for Democratic Change. The leaders of the Standing Committee who are here, ladies and gentlemen of the press, members of the Movement for Democratic Change, Shanghai. I thank you for coming to this press conference, our first press conference after the historic extraordinary Congress. On Sunday, the 27th of December, 2020, the MDC held its extraordinary Congress, whose purpose was to elect a substantive leader to replace our late icon, Morgan Tsvangirai. Although there were certain challenges associated with the process and the election, we are satisfied that this election was in substantial compliance with the Constitution of the MDC and democratic principles. The result was a true reflection of the wishes of the majority in the MDC. this Congress resolved the succession conundrum that had bedeviled our party for many, many months. I was humbled by the confidence bestowed unto me by the delegates present. I did pay special tribute to my contestants in that election, and I did wish them well. We were, however, saddened when we saw a clip suggesting that somebody tried or did assault Madam Thokozani Kube. We did not condone that barbarism, and we have instructed the Secretary for Security, the Secretary for the Youth Assembly, as well as the National Chairman's Office to work together with the officials at the Harare International Conference Center to identify the culprit or the culprits and bring them to book. As we have said before, we do not have room for violence in this great party. And if that person is caught and if that person is identified, they will be dealt with as firmly as possible. We also were saddened to hear certain slurs directed at Madam Kube. We do not condone that as well. To that end, we are calling upon our officials that I've mentioned to investigate these people and bring them to book. There is no room in my administration, there is no room in my leadership for hate. We do not condone sexism, regionalism, tribalism, or any form of prejudice. Our leadership has enormous responsibilities before it. First, we have to work to unite the party. To that end, we want to unite this party and strengthen it into a credible change agent. This entails the exercise of tolerance and restraint on the party of the leaders. We appeal for patience from our members as we try to find each other as a leadership. We want to rebuild this movement. The second responsibility we have is to rebuild the entire opposition. To that end, we will be reaching out to our brothers and sisters within the opposition with a view of forging mutually beneficial relationships and collaboration. Third, we have to develop non-toxic, mutually beneficial, respectful, and professional working relationship with the ruling party. It is our duty as the major opposition party in this country to make sure that we keep the ruling party on its toes to deliver its promises to the people of Zimbabwe. In this regard, we wish to make it clear that we will be an effective, an organized, a focused, but responsible and patriotic opposition party in this country. We are the government in waiting. What we will demand from them, what we demand from them is what we must expect them to demand from us when we become the ruling party. And it is only a question of time. Our belief is that the party must play its role in finding a solution or solutions to Zimbabwe's problems. To that end, we will be approaching government and other stakeholders with the concrete proposals on how to redress the Zimbabwean situation. It is clear that Zimbabwe urgently needs to craft a shared national vision. We will play our part in crafting the national vision of Zimbabwe. Equally, it is urgent that we should work towards ending the international isolation of Zimbabwe. There is no doubt that Zimbabwe's working together can make this country into an economic powerhouse once more. The National Standing Committee of the MDC will be sitting shortly to discuss urgent business relating to the just ended Congress, as well as the program of action for next year. I will proceed to announce or reiterate the leadership of the MDC. It is not our intention to victimize anyone. Everybody, every leader, every member of the MDC has a role to play in bringing success to Zimbabwe. We are still consulting, so what you will hear, the names that you are here, that are being said here, are work in progress. It's not the complete leadership, and it will depend on a number of factors. But this is the leadership of the MDC as things stand. The National Standing Committee President, that is myself, is elected by the Extraordinary Congress. Our first Vice President is Dr. Thokozani Kupe. This is by operation of the Constitution. We were having an extraordinary Congress to elect a substantive president. And therefore, the Vice President elected at the 2014 Congress remains Vice President of the party. I will be proposing to the National Council that we will sit sometime in January. As you know, in terms of the MDC Constitution, the first National Council sits as continuation of Congress. So there are certain legal things that we need to deal with in order to bring our constitution in line with the national constitution. That entails the appointment of a second vice president. And I will be proposing to the National Council that the second vice president will be Engineer Elias Mwonzora. But of course, this will be pending the decision of the National Council in view of the ruling of the Supreme Court. The national chairperson of the party remains Senator Morgan Komichi. Because Engineer Mwonzora is moving hopefully to be the second vice president, we are going to have a vice national chairperson as Major Giles Mutsekwa. The Secretary General is Madame Paulina Mpariwa. As you know, she was the Deputy Secretary General. So with the creation of the vacancy, there is a natural movement. And I'm very, very confident of her abilities. And I'm also happy that we then have a woman taking a substantive position. She is a woman of great abilities as a trade unionist, as a former minister, and as a veteran parliamentarian. She will be deputized as Deputy Secretary General by Dr. Tichiwanani Mavetera. Dr. Tichiwanani Mavetera was was a national executive member. In 2014, he was secretary for Mashingo province. The national organizing secretary remains Mr. Gift Chimanikire, again a veteran trade unionist and a veteran negotiator. And I've no doubt that this is not the end of his movement, given his tremendous abilities. I'm also glad that this also deals with the regional balancing that we want to do. Mr. Chimanikire is from Mashonaland Central. He will be deputized as by Mr. Rhino Mashaya. Mr. Mashaya moves from being organizing secretary for Harare to being deputy organizing secretary for Harare province. We have created, as the deputy organizing secretary national, we have created another position Secretary for Mobilization and Recruitment, and that is Mr. Tangwara Matimba. Mr. Matimba was the secretary, organizing secretary for Manicaland Province. Acting Secretary for Information and Publicity, and again, this position awaits the confirmation by the National Council in terms of our constitution. He's a young man from Bulawayo, and his name is Mr. Witness Dube. He will be deputized by the Deputy Information and Publicity Secretary, Mr. Kalipani Pugen. Secretary for Elections, between the two of them, depending on the consultations that we do today, there will be a presidential spokesperson as well. And I think that a little surprise awaits us. The Secretary for Elections remains Mr. Gandhi Mzingwa, again, a veteran of this democratic struggle. Secretary for Security. Again, this is a young man who has distinguished himself, and as our Congress was going through turbulence, he stabilized it. He is a firm, intelligent youngster. Shakespeare Mukoyi. Our Secretary for International Relations is a veteran diplomat, and a veteran diplomat who was ambassador to Germany during the inclusive government, Ambassador Epson Makuvise. We have created Secretary for Policy and Research. This is a very unassuming but intelligent young man, one of the youngest MPs in Parliament. His name is Dr. Samuel Banda, the MP for Mount Pleasant. The chairperson for the Youth Assembly is Winfreda Yvonne Musarurwa, who takes over from where Shakespeare Mukoyi left. Again, we are happy that we have introduced another woman in the standing committee. The secretary, the chair lady of the Women's Assembly remains Mrs. Dorothy Bebe, or Mabebe, or Gonyet, as some know. Secretary for Local Government, I'm reminded of the mistake that I've made, but I will announce it. Secretary for Local Government is Mr. Blessing Chebundo. Again, this is a veteran from the Midlands Province, Kwekwe. He will be deputized by Miss Faith Musarurwa, or Kamsungira. Again, introducing yet another woman into the National Standing Committee. We have created the Secretary for Peace, Reconciliation, and National Dialogue. This is a veteran politician and one of the most colorful characters, Mr. Morgan Femai. Senator Morgan Femai, a veteran trade unionist, a veteran parliamentarian. He will be deputized by Mr. Peter Nyoni from the Victoria Falls, Wange West. Our Treasurer General, Acting Treasurer General, again, this post will await the confirmation by the National Council, is Dr. Tapiwa Mashakada. Dr. Tapiwa Mashakada knows economics. He knows his job. He worked as a treasurer before. He worked as a secretary general before, and he is former minister for economic development. He's a friend of mine. We met at Goromos High School, and we met at the University of Zimbabwe, and we worked in the same office at the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions. He was in charge of the economics desk when I was in charge of the legal desk. A very reliable politician indeed. He takes over as the acting Treasurer General. The Deputy Treasurer General remains Mr. Chief Ndlovu from South African province. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your standing committee. I will make the interim announcement for the National Executive Committee. This is not in order of importance, but in order, the order that we have written them. Secretary for Culture and Traditional Affairs, Senator Cephas Makuyana Olchikreda. Secretary for Finance and Economic, Senator Makuyana is a veteran trade unionist, a founder member of the MDC, and a veteran member, a key member of COPAC. He was in the team that I was leading in COPAC, a key negotiator, a veteran negotiator indeed. Secretary for Finance and Economic Affairs, this is a veteran economist. I think he was a lecturer at one point in the United States, Mr. Weber Chinyaza from Rusape. Secretary for Health and Child Welfare, Dr. Ruth Labode, again a veteran parliamentarian. Secretary for Agriculture and Food Security, this is a veteran politician, very unassuming as well, from Mashonaland East, Mr. Masimba Rushidzo. He will be deputized or assisted by Mr. Valentine Ziswa, again a veteran agriculturalist from Rusape as well. Secretary for Mines and Mining Development, Mr. Gabuza, Joel Gabuza from Binga, Mat North. He is a veteran engineer and veteran parliamentarian. I think he has been in parliament for close to 20 years now. Secretary for Justice and Legal Affairs, this is a young man from Gweru. He is a very, very brilliant lawyer and is a good parliamentarian, Honorable Brian Dube. Secretary for Home Affairs, this is a big man, but he's a young man, very, very solid, from Binga, Mat North, and he is Mr. Mukombwe Dube. Secretary for Industry and Commerce, he's based in Beckbridge, but he comes from Mashonaland East, Wedza, and he is Mr. Fanuel Hukwe. Secretary for SMEs and Entrepreneurship, have I pronounced it well? Yes. Entrepreneurship, Mr. Edwin Kakora from Mazoe. Secretary for Education, a member of the DMTL, Mr. Edwin Zambara. A very, very solid man indeed. Secretary for Labor and Social Security, a veteran trade unionist, a founder member of the MDC, a veteran negotiator, James Makore. Stationed in Keko right now, but comes from Chile in Mashingo. Secretary for Environment and Climatic Change, all the way from Matabeleland South, Miss Sipo Mokone Ndlovu. Secretary for Tourism and Hospitality Management, Miss Jacqueline Zwambila from Chegutu. We have created a Secretary for Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Tonderai Samanyanga. Secretary for Information Communications Technology, a young lady, based in South Africa, in the South African province. More Blessings Tembo comes from Bulawayo. Secretary for Parliamentary Affairs, we have segregated legal affairs, legal justice and legal affairs on its own, and then parliamentary affairs. Mr. Anele Ndebele, he is a veteran parliamentarian, I think it's in Uveve, Magwegwe, yes, Magwegwe, and he is also a lawyer. Transport and infrastructure development. This man is a veteran politician, and if we had our way, if Tsvangirai had his way, he had appointed him. If he had his way, and if it had not been for the intransigence of the former Minister of Local Government, Ignatius Chombo, he would have been the mayor of Chitungwiza. He is a graduate from the University of Zimbabwe, and started with us, the opposition, detained with us in Wawa prison in 1990 and 1991. Isaac Manyemba from Chitungwiza. Secretary for People with Disabilities. We have 2 people here, and we are making our decision on who deputizes the other. The first one is Mr. Peter Mukuchamano from Harare West. And the second one is Mr. Wedza. Wedza from Glenview. Mr. Wedza's disability came as a result of, I think he was shot here at Harvest House. He is now wheelchair bound, but a very, very solid person indeed. Secretary for Welfare, a lady from Mashonaland East, Senator Spiwe Banda, Honorable Spiwe Banda. Defense and related defense and intelligence. We have, this man is based in South Africa. Currently, he is in the remand prison. He was arrested on the day of Congress, but he's in remand prison. And you know, an accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Sox Chikovero. Secretary for Devolution and Provincial Affairs, another veteran, member of the opposition, and a lady from the Midlands. I think it's Gokwe or Sanyat, Miss Trena Rujidzo. Secretary for Special Projects and Party Business, no rest, Mujamba Jecha Marara. And well, with the responsibility in the national executive, we expect you not to be jumbering the jecha too much. He is a very, very astute businessman and a logistician. That is his profession. He's a self-made business person, and he hails from Mzimbo area near Chiweshe there. Secretary for Gender is Miss Isabel Simango. Ladies and gentlemen, there are people that whose names I have not read, but who are in the national executive already. They remain in the national executive. There are some people whose deployment we are still discussing, and will depend on the reaction of certain leaders to these appointments. You know, some people may say, I'm not interested. Then we will put some people who are interested in working. We will be creating special committees to assist these leaders. Again, I want to reiterate that these are interim appointments. and we still are looking at other other possibilities, more blessing temple, and so on may need to be deputized, and we will be discussing that. We still have members in the National Executive that you may all know about. Mrs. Memory Bondia is there, Bessie Ngoma is there, and so on. And all members of the National Executive remain. No leader is being removed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that completes our announcement of the appointments that we have made in the National Executive and the National Standing Committee. I wish to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ichawa norondo. Ichawa You have heard the inaugural speech by the President, Advocate Douglas Mwonzora. Now I invite questions from the media. You raise your question and you identify yourself. Yes.
Samuel Tagawara from True Security. I just want to understand what does the Douglas Mwonzora bring to the EOC in terms with regards to the leader of the opposition in Parliament.
Right, we will get that one. Implication of the leader of the opposition in Parliament. Questions? Another question? Yeah. Yes.
My name is Richard Mponda from Newsday. I wanted to ask you Simboti, kumpa fesani katika raitika magambo fonera we Dr. Kupe mtaura nao titaka udiscuss to find way forward to find each other. Formal.
Thank you, Richard. Another question, Yvonne?
I'm Yvonne, freelance journalist. I just wanted to find out, has the $6 million issue been resolved?
Thank you. Yes, question?
And I'm Charlie from 263 Touch.
Okay.
Given that the individuals that you mentioned to be, for example, Madam Coupe and Engineer Mtsu, including Senator Committee, they are not in agreement with the outcome of the election. Should they decline your offer, are you going to recall them from underneath?
Thanks. Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Perfect. I have about 3 or so questions.
Perfect. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm allowed to ask them at once. The first one will be, you said in your presentation that you will be working closely with the ruling party, ZANU-PF, and there have been suggestions that especially yourself you are on the payroll of ZANU-PF. Where does that statement, the one that you made, that you'll be working with ZANU-PF, leave you? And is this a position agreed by your constituencies? That's the first question. The second question will be, obviously, there are no disagreements in terms of the outcome of the election at the Extraordinary Congress. Now, you have appointed Dr. Kupe and the others who are in disagreement. I wanted to find out from you, why are you rushing to make these appointments and announcements? Because they've also said that they will be taking you to court. Are you not, is it not good that you wait for the court outcome, then you make appointments after that? Then you also spoke about, you also spoke about the presidium, let me say, to say that you will be in line with the national constitution, appointing 2 vice presidents to the party. This is a government in waiting. People have been complaining about the bloated government. And are you just copying and pasting what ZANU-PF and the government is doing? And do you think this is healthy for a government in waiting?
Thank you. We'll take this round and then do the final round. President.
Oh, thank you very much. The leader of the opposition. Well, the situation is under discussion. We will be making an announcement regarding that. But the fact of the matter is that we have 2 leaders, 3 leaders actually. We have Vice President Kupe in the National Assembly. She will lead in the National Assembly. We have Engineer Mwonzora, again subject to the National Council, and of course his attitude towards it. He will be heading the opposition within the Senate. And in the entire administration, in the entire setup, there will be a leader, and that will be myself. But whether it will be the technical leader of the opposition, as you put it, we are discussing that, and so on. But I have no intention of victimizing anyone. I have no intention of recalling anybody, unless, of course, people want to be recalled. But I think that it's not in our nature to be retributive. I know that there were a lot of things that were said, but this was as a result of anger. That was as a result of frustration, and this comes with competition. I think that I must be a very frustrating opponent, and I do understand my opponents when they get frustrated by me and so on. But that is to be expected. I expected people to get angry, but I also expect people to get over it. So we have had to allow a period of cooling for the Madam Vice President in particular. I know she will cool down. I know that she will come back and assume her responsibilities. I'm sure she knows the enormous responsibilities that are on her shoulders. So to answer the question of whether I did reach out to her, the answer is yes. We have been talking, not very formally, but through some channels, so that we resolve whatever issue was there. The same applies to Engineer Mwonzora and Senator Komichi. I will be meeting Senator Komichi sometime today, and we will discuss that. But I want to make one thing clear, and it is that if you look at the figures, after everything is said and done, we just have to look at the figures, and the figures speak for themselves. I know some people were saying that Manicaland should not have voted. I don't agree with that. But let's subtract the votes of Manicaland, about 380 votes that came from Manicaland, assuming that those people voted for me. Subtract them from the figure, and a winner still remains the same. So I think that we must also learn to accept it when we do not succeed. But as I said in my acceptance speech, this was a contest and not a fight. And as I said, I did understand the frustration that my colleagues could have gone through, but I trust that they will go over it for the benefit and the betterment of their party. The fact that they are in disagreement with me, I have said that I want people in this party to be free to criticize me as their leader. They must be free to disagree with me. They must be free to speak truth to power. That is the type of leadership that we want to bring. So I will be allowed people to criticize me within the party, within the organization, or within the organs of the party. They are free to disagree. That is the leadership we are about to bring. When we talk of democracy, democracy must not be a mere ideal. It is a way of life. It must be a way of life. I want to bring democracy, and I will start with this party. They are free to criticize me, and they will not lose their posts by virtue of their criticism of me. Having said that, I encourage leaders to be responsible as well, and make sure that the criticism does not become dysfunctional to the extent of destroying the party. $6 million. There was never $6 million that was stolen. I think the issue of 6 million came as a result of some people trying to gain an advantage at Congress. It was supposed to facilitate an arrest the morning of the Congress. So mention a big figure having been stolen, the candidate will be arrested. So that did not happen because you don't just arrest. And also the police know that this is a big organization. This is an established organization, 20 years. You cannot have money in the MDC taken or withdrawn on the signature of one person. We countersign in this organization. We have a financial system. We have finance and administration rules. I could tell that some of the leaders who were new did not understand the running of this organization. The accounting system in this organization is that the Secretary General spends and the Treasurer General pays. That is the simple accounting principle that is there. We have finance and administration rules. So the money was never stolen. The breakdown is there. But in order to put the minds of the members of the party to rest, the Extraordinary Congress resolved that there will be an external audit. And this is an audit that we don't control. The external auditors will be appointed by the Secretary General in consultation with her colleague, the Treasurer General. They will choose an external auditor whom we don't control, and the results of that audit will be made public, should the leaders of this party really want it. So no money was stolen. This was this was simply smear campaign. Then phoning Dr. Kupe, I've already said that. I have reached out to Dr. Kupe using other channels. But also, we now have a legal opinion from Professor Lovemo Madugu, who is a lawyer for the party. He was representing everyone. He was representing us. He wrote an opinion yesterday. And that opinion settled matters as far as the legitimacy of Sunday's election is concerned. But if people want to go to court, it is their right to go to court. As a lawyer myself, I can't stop people from going to court. But they can go to court and so on. And I am very sure that the court challenge won't succeed. Some people were talking about quorum. They were saying that the Congress did not form a quorum because they were basing it on the number of votes. That is not the correct way of determining quorum, because some of the delegates did not vote, either because they were disqualified, or because they were not on the voters' roll, or because they simply got fed up by what was going on and went away. So the number of votes does not determine the quorum. It's a mistake that my friend, I think it's Dr. Alex Magaisa, is making. And I just urge him to be more responsible and to do more research when it comes to these things. A quorum is determined by the number of people who attend a meeting at the beginning of that meeting and not at the end of that meeting. So you can see that some provinces voted at 1 a.m. Some people had left, some lactating mothers had left, some people with the spouses who are very jealous had left. So that's not how we determine quorum. Again, some were saying that delegates who were not supposed to vote voted. Now, this is a very old story. Fortunately, at the beginning of this election, some of my colleagues, my contestants, were asked by Blessed Mshanga. I realize he's not around today.
Yes.
Oh, is he there? He is my witness. He did pose a question to all the candidates on whether they were happy with the voters' roll. And all of them said they were happy with the voters' roll. The voters' roll doesn't become bad because the election is turning topsy-turvy. The problem with this election was the size of the ballot paper. With the size of the ballot paper, people could estimate where the voter was placing their ballot. If it was at the top, it was Madam Kupe. If it was at the bottom, it was myself. And when the bottom started prevailing, then we had these problems. But ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I also want to say, on a serious note, these were the same delegates that decided matters between myself and Advocate Chamisa in 2014. They simply came and voted me again. That should not surprise anybody. I did score very well in Matabeleland South. I had 64% of the vote in Matabeleland South. In Bulawayo, 30%. In Matabeleland North, 50-50. And therefore, I do not understand. I think the vote was spread nationally. So I think I've answered all the questions.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. The old story, I am not on the payroll of ZANU-PF. I don't need to be on the payroll of ZANU-PF at all. This is what opponents who are trying to discredit you do. I do not become a member of ZANU-PF because I've disagreed with you. I was a good member of this party until I disagreed with certain people after the coming in of the Supreme Court judgment. And because of that, I suddenly, in their estimation, became ZANU-PF. Those people who are accusing me of that know for certain that I am not. But people do these things as part of mudslinging and so on. So we will be redressing that, and you will see for yourselves. This country will see for itself whether I am ZANU-PF or not. I'm now the leader of this party. The direction that this party will take will answer all these questions. At any rate, when we say we want to work with the ruling party, It does not mean that we want to be part of the ruling party. We want to work with them. They are a government. We want to take them to account, and we can only take them to account when we interact with them. We interact with them in parliament already, so we work with them in parliament. We interact with them in local government, so we work with them in local government. We shadow some of their ministers. By the way, in January, we will be appointing a shadow cabinet. That shadow cabinet, our ministers will be interacting with ministers in government as part of the shadowing, as part of opposition. Opposition parties work with the ruling parties. It is the nature of the relationship that differs. Our relation will be non-toxic. We do not believe that in order to be an effective opposition, we must be insulting the opponent. We don't believe in that. We believe that you can be effective if you are even if you are factual. You can be effective even if you are non-insulting. Our leadership will not insult anyone, but it will be an effective opposition, and we promised our people, the Zimbabwean people, that working together with ZANU-PF does not mean working for ZANU-PF.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Doctor. The issue of the two VPs. Sorry, I'd left that out. Sorry. You see, the national constitution has two vice presidents. It does not have three. Remember the MDC under Dr. Changrai and Dr. Chamisa and Advocate Chamisa had three vice presidents, and that did not have any precedent. But we have a national constitution, and we want to establish a shadow cabinet. So shadow national president, shadow vice presidents who will shadow the two who are there. That is the logic behind the other vice president. It is contained in the national constitution. But this is my proposal to the National Council. It is free to wishes, but I thought that I should make it public that if I go ahead from the National Council as well as from the legal expertise, my proposal will be for Engineer Elias Mwonzora because of certain attributes that I see as a leader, I see in him. And of course, subject to his attitude towards it.
Okay, thanks. We shall take the final round of questions. Yes.
The issue of Pollard, have you taken a position?
Thank you. Next.
My name is Lucy Yasin. I'm a freelance journalist. You just said you are going to consult with the National Council.
Can you speak up, Lucy?
I'm saying you are saying you're going to consult in consultation with the National Council over the appointments of the two VPs. But I want to know, what does your constitution as a party say?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'd like to ask if
Identify yourself.
that's from ZBC News Online. I'd like to ask if there is any hope in terms of reaching out to the MDC alliance under Nelson Chamisa, or whether you've been talking, interacting, and maybe managing the bridge.
Thank you. We shall allow the president to answer this last round of questions and end there. Thank you.
As the MDC, we stand for national dialogue and reconciliation. We have National Council resolutions on that. We have Congress resolutions, the previous Congress, that is 2014. It is the nature of this dialogue that people may differ on. But the principle of dialogue is agreed within the MDC. We were supposed to settle the issue of dialogue at the Extraordinary Congress on Sunday. Unfortunately, because of the events that took place, we were unable to deal with that issue. That will be decided before we make a pronouncement by the National Council when we sit in January. But certainly we will have a settled answer regarding that. I don't want to preempt the National Council. But one thing I can confirm is that we are for national dialogue. There are processes that we have to take that involve the National Council. A president is allowed to make proposals in what he thinks is in the best interest of the party to a higher organ, that is the National Council. This National Council will be sitting as an extension of Congress to complete the unfinished business of Congress. And that issue will be put there. You may know that the issue of the S in the MDC constitution when it comes to vice presidents was decided upon by the Supreme Court. And it is up to the National Council to clarify on that issue. But this is an issue that I said is in the hands of our legal experts. It will be in the hands of the National Council. But there is no question on who takes over in the event that the president is away. It is Dr. Kupe, because we have settled this by saying this is Vice President number 1, the first Vice President. This is Vice President number 2. They don't rank the same. So I think that, I hope that the leaders will find it within their stride. They are in agreement on something. Dr. Kupe and Engineer Mwonzora, I urge them to be in agreement on this one as well. But this is going to be decided by the National Council. But I just hope that the National Council finds favor with this. I have said previously that Nelson Chamisa is not my enemy, Welshman is not my enemy, Tendai Beat is not my enemy, Mnangagwa is not my enemy. My enemy is poverty. My enemy is ignorance. My enemy is unemployment. My enemy are the debilitating issues bedeviling the people of Zimbabwe. So why not? Why can't we speak to each other? Of course, there are members of the MDC Alliance who, since the election on Sunday, have been making overtures to come back to the party. We have said that they are free to rejoin their party and so on. So we are not putting any barriers to discussions with other political parties. And we place no conditions on anybody. So we are the official MDC that was left by Morgan Tsvangirai, and there is no other MDC that is as official as ourselves. That issue was settled by the Supreme Court. It was settled by the holding of the Extraordinary Congress.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our press conference. Thank you, members of the media fraternity. We'll be in touch with you. Witness will now take over as our spokesperson going forward. I want to thank you very much. Thank you.